Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of the 20th of January, 2015. We opened our meeting around 6:30. We went into executive session for reason number 3, and we're back ready to go again. Roll call was done. Selectman Holmes is not here today. The town administrator has just gone off to do some photocopy. He will be back shortly. Go ahead.
Announcements, Mr. Titlebaum.
I don't believe I have any.
Ms. Whiteside.
Yes, thank you very much. I have some.
You knew that was going to
Is that a
happen.
book?
Small book.
She says keep it short, and she takes out a book of it.
There are lots of really neat things to do in Wareham that don't cost money. And one of them is taking a tour of the Theodore Lyman Preserve, which is owned by the trustees of reservations. It's on the head of Bay Road. It's an old fishing camp that was donated by a family for preservation. It's owned, as I say, by the trustees of reservation. 673 acres of wildlife, and it's one of the last 3 or 4 remaining brook trout fishing streams in the eastern part of the United States. There are hiking trails, freshwater wetlands, saltwater wetlands, forested uplands, sandy beach on Buttermilk Bay, plus 2 of our ancient property markers. It's open virtually every day, and it's an awesome thing to just take a walk. Second thing, the Brockton VA has twigged onto the idea of recycling buildings, so they are going to be taking one of their old hospital buildings and making it a place for homeless vets. I think that's a fabulous idea. And then there's an article which I'm going to have the office copy for all of you. It's entitled, "Unlimited Permits Strain Boston's Parking System. A permit for every car, but not a space." This was in the Globe. And it shows you that, you issue 93 parking stickers, and what do you have? You have a mess. So, also, didn't I do?
That's it?
Yeah, yes.
I'm all set.
I just have a couple today. Onset Bay Association is having their annual meeting. It's their membership drive kickoff, their annual meeting volunteer recognition and membership drive. It will be at 6:30 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, January 22nd at Salerno's Function Hall. Again, it's the 22nd. There's some information went out, I think, a week and a half ago saying it was the 21st. It's not. It is the 22nd. The donation is $10. There'll be a cash bar, and there'll be complimentary hors d'oeuvres. Bob White is having his usual Thursday meeting at the Agawam Senior Center there. And Chris Schott, who's making notes right now, is going to be the speaker there from the Courier, and that will be at 9 a.m. in the morning. And that's what I got.
All right, next up, citizens' participation. Anyone here to speak to us this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Appointments. Okay, I have one appointment tonight. Betty Jean LePro. Is she here?
No.
No? All right, this is a recycling committee appointment. Everybody set? I move we appoint Betty Jean Lepore to the recycling committee to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
All right, next, we're gonna, we got a little time before the hearing, so we got a common vic to do, so we'll do that. Hold on a second. Veterans Council.
It's in the same group.
It's in the same folder?
Could be.
So this is the folder, just, well, let me see. Hold on a second. Common vic, yeah,
We'll do that one first.
okay. Yeah,
Is that considered a hearing for the common vic or not?
I don't think so. I don't think you need a hearing for a common vic. It's just an appointment. That's not here, believe it or not. It's not in the packet, just the liquor one is.
Well,
So you-
normally they do the common vic without us doing it as a rule.
All right, so you know what, we're gonna wait. We'll go by, we'll do the, do we have any sewer business this evening? Does anybody have any sewer business?
Actually, Guy does.
Guy,
But it's
you wanna
gonna-
come down?
It's gonna run longer than the.
Is it gonna take a while? How long is it gonna take, Guy, do you think?
An hour, hour and a half. I'm kidding. I
You
actually, I
have
can
3
do it.
minutes. Can you do it
I
in
can
3
do-
minutes?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
do this, I can run this real fast.
All right,
It's just where we are,
okay, cool.
all the different projects that we've been going
All
through.
right.
I thought the public would know, we can just, I can just
Oh,
blast
Mike
them
is
real
there.
quick and if there's any questions, that's all that is.
We'll wait and do it all together. We'll do it when we do the hearing.
Just so you know, I think there's nothing here to sign for some
Yeah.
reason.
It should be, but it isn't.
I know. Just shoot me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Campina. Go ahead.
What I have in front of us is just it's a few pages, and it just talks about some of the projects that we've been doing, and questions have been asked of me, where are they, where are we with these certain things? So I'll just run through it real quick. It's very brief, and if there's any questions, you can bring it up. Solar, we're still actively pursuing it. We're looking at leasing the land, maybe giving out 100% of the generation, so that's still ongoing, and the consultant's still working on it, so that's not dead. So people are aware of that. We're still pursuing that and looking at all our options. Grease Sealer is very close. We're at contract. Our attorney and their attorney are talking. They've worked out some of the language, and they're very close, and I expect any day now they'll get to an agreement, and we'll move forward with Grease Sealer. We're excited about that. Capital planning, we have hired an engineering firm. We've had 3 meetings. We've identified some of the weaknesses through our collection system, in our pump stations, and our treatment plant, and we're putting together a 5, a 10, and a 20-year plan. We'll put some figures to it, we'll budget it, and we'll put it into our budgets going forward. Our capital projects that we've approved at the last town meeting, the HVAC blower in the blower building is completed, up and running. We're now cooled. That building is quite hot year-round, so without the air conditioning, the VFDs and different components heat up the computer system, so that's done. The clarifiers, one's completed. We've stripped them down, cleaned them, and then we've coated them with epoxy. That's done. Clarify 2 started yesterday. We should be done in 7 to 10 days. The blowers and the aeration, the VFDs are ordered, going to be replaced. The generators, we're excited about that. The first one was installed yesterday at Onset Pier. That's, we've got it in. We're working on that now. We've got 2 more to go. We have backup pump trucks and standby generators and whatnot. Camera truck is close to, camera truck is done, but the camera itself, we're getting ready to purchase it. Mr. Attorney Bowen has done quite a bit of work. We looked into a program called NJPA. It's a procurement procedure, and we'll be able to buy from a local company that we bought other equipment from. So that's very close. We're excited about that. Swiss Beach is we've completed the I&I study. We've identified Ruggles seems to be the problem. So now we're going to camera those lines. We're going to actually look at them. We're going to identify the highest amount of flow and start there, because infiltration is something that's costing us capacity and money. So we'll start there and we'll eventually get the whole thing done. I'm going to Denver in March, approved, and I'm going to look at all the different technology, which is trenchless technology. There may be a way to rehab that area without digging anywhere. Use the existing lines, existing pipes. There's many, many technologies that are available now that could save money, convenience, a lot. So we're going to look at those options also.
You might want to explain how you're getting to Denver.
You gonna
It's not
skate?
on the ratepayers.
I'm going to
dime.
get on the Denver, yes. I was actually, Derek was good enough to lend me his vehicle and sponsor the whole thing. So I'm really, I applied for a scholarship through an association which is sponsoring this seminar. It's a National Trenchless Society. They're putting me up. They're going to pay for my hotel. They're going to pay for my way of getting in, and everything else is on us. We went through the ethics. We reported this. We did the proper documentation, and everything's been done legally. It's approved, and so now we're moving forward and actually securing the trip. So,
All right, Guy, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to make you wait. I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Okay,
We got a
that's-
public hearing, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
We'll get
And
you
I can
back
finish
right
it
Get you
up
back
later.
up right after.
Yeah,
okay?
and it's very, that's.
We'll get the
that's
rest of
fine.
it. Somebody might have questions too, and we're rushing
Okay,
here, so let's not
absolutely.
rush it.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for clearing up that point.
Okay. All right, we have a public hearing. Note the time is 7:17. And the hearing is on the application of Shenanigans. Is that how you say it? Shenanigans? Shenanigans? Shenanigans, is that how you say it? Shenanigans Bar and Grill. You want to come on down? I move we open the public hearing on Shenanigans Bar and Grill, Inc.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Thank you.
Public hearing's open.
Good evening.
How you
Good
doing?
evening.
I'm great, thanks. Yourselves?
Good.
Good.
I'm here with Stephen Hurlbert, and Stephen is the principal of Shenanigans Bar and Grill, Inc. He's looking to lease and open what was known as Shooters, and he's seeking a year-round all-alcoholic restaurant license in order to do that. You should have an application package in front of you. Stephen's here to answer any specific questions that you'd have of him. He's a businessman. He's operated a number of businesses. He's in and around town. He's local to southeastern Mass. So he's very familiar with the area and familiar with the location. He's actually been working at this location or with the owners of the property now for almost a year, trying to get this to the point that we're at now. So it's not something that's just been put together over the last month or two.
Okay. Any questions of the board, Mr. Titlebaum?
No, the application appears to be complete.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Ms. Whiteside?
No, I don't have any questions at the moment, thank you.
I have nothing really
I
to add.
have one question. It says outdoor. Where is the outdoor going to be here? It says fenced-in outdoor.
There's a deck both in the front and in the back of the premises. It would be utilizing that deck.
How is that fenced?
It's,
It's a chain link with slats in it that encompasses the backside of the building.
How tall is it versus where the people are sitting?
8 feet.
From the ground up, 8 feet?
Yeah.
How far is the deck off the ground?
That's a good question.
We're probably going to have to
If you're sitting at a table or standing there, there's still enough fence height to cover it.
cover it. And the fencing is such nothing can be passed through?
There's gonna be a gate.
No, pass through the fencing itself.
No, there are slats
No,
that
there's
run.
it's like screening. It's slats that go down, so you can't just look directly through it.
No spaces in.
No.
Thank you. Before we continue, I just want to make a comment that this license became available, actually, we've been turning people down for 6 or 7 years, and this license was something that was, I think 7 years ago, I think it was a lodging license that we never knew was available and became available. And we have a little bit of an issue, namely that the town has been turning people down for quite a while, even recently, not knowing we had a license, and the ABCC, I guess, came up and said there's one been sitting, and they realized it's available. So we have some issues because of that as well, because we have turned people down. I'll continue from there.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is anybody here to speak for the applicant? Okay. Is anybody here to speak
For
against
the
the
record,
applicant?
that,
No.
Mr. Barrows
Mr. Barrows.
was in favor.
Anybody here to speak against the applicant? You want to come on down?
I just have one question, I can ask it from here, is the gentleman,
You need to do it from the
You
microphones.
need to come to the microphone.
and identify yourself.
David, you'll need to identify
all
yourself
right,
as well.
Dave Walton, District 3. I'm just curious if this new ownership has anything to do with the previous Shooters or the one that was closed up in Middleborough, or is this a brand-new owner, a new business, or are we just going around with different names and going through another cycle? We already went through one cycle with Shooters before. I just don't want the town to go through it again. Thank you.
I can answer that. One has nothing at all to do with the other. Shooters was Mr. Hoban. I was familiar with Mr. Hoban, and Mr. Schulbert's operation has nothing at all to do with Mr. Hoban or any family members of Mr. Hoban.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have anything else you want to add before we close the hearing?
No, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
All right, board members.
Note
Mr.
that the hearing
Tyree.
closed at 7:22.
Thank you.
Got it on the thing.
I don't have any specific comments to the application. I don't have any issue with it directly. However, as the chairman did indicate, this came about when essentially we did an audit of the licenses we had. And what we came up with was that the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission was saying that we had one more than we had actually issued. And going back to the records, what we found was that one of the inns in Onset had closed, as Chairman Slavin said, 6 or 7 years ago. And that was actually categorized by the ABCC as a separate innkeeper's license. It wasn't under a common vic, it wasn't under anything else. I believe the assumption back then was, well, if you don't have an inn that will hold the license, then you can't put this license back into general circulation. So it fell off the radar. Unfortunately, that conclusion back 6 or 7 years ago was erroneous. We've had this available license, unfortunately, all along. And, you know, as Selectman Slavin says, I think it probably, just to be fair to the other people who've come before here, looking or gone to the office and have looked to get a license and we've turned them away, I think the best thing to do would be to notice a comparative hearing and at least allow other people to come before the board and have their say. And that's no reflection on your application, sir. It may be that upon that hearing, it turns out to be the top dog and gets the license. I don't know. I can't say ahead of time how that will work out. But I think that's probably the best way to be fair to everybody that unfortunately has gotten screwed over the past several years.
Mrs. Whiteside?
No comment at this time. Thank you.
I have no comment.
None for me.
You all set? All right, I guess I'll make a motion, then I'll give it a try. I move to take the decision on this application under advisement pending the holding of comparative hearings on the license.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any other discussion? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically what's going to happen now is we're going to advertise that the license is available. We're going to get a lot of people that maybe had applied in the past, which we have records of, and they'll apply. And then we'll have hearings just like we had with you. And at some point, we'll make a decision of who's going to get the license. Okay?
If anyone.
If anyone. That's how we're going to handle it. Okay?
And once again, that's no dire reflection on your application. It's just,
Has nothing to do with you or your
It's-
place or anything
it's
else.
our issue, not yours.
I have a question, Mr. Bella. Do you want us to go ahead with a common vic license or hold on that?
I would think that you could go ahead with that. I'm afraid that, you know, it puts certainly Mr. Hurlbert in a very precarious
We
position
understand that.
because he's progressed with a lease agreement and arrangement with a landlord based on the Selectmen's office telling him that there was this license available. When we first applied, we were told that it was not available. We checked with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, who said that they believed it was available. And then that we sort of waited around to get a decision from your office. The decision came back that it was available. Well, an awful lot has now taken place based on that representation. And a lot of monies have been spent, renovations have been made, et cetera, being told the license was available.
Well, but you know, Lenny, that you never spend money on a license that hasn't been issued.
It's part of business. If you
Well, but-
want to open before the spring, when you have an opportunity to make your business work, and you have to deal with a landlord because you don't own the building, you do the best you can. As a business person, you make certain
You
investments.
make you take certain risks.
Right.
Is
But-
what you're saying.
But when, you know, it's a scenario where you're,
Yeah.
we're
we're not
only
saying the
listening
license-
to
we're not saying
the
the license-
personnel that tell us that it was available and to submit the, you know, that we could, our application would be accepted. Initially, it wasn't. We accepted that. But then when we kept sort of digging in to see if it was, we were told it was available and that we could submit the application and it would be processed.
And the license
And I
is
would see-
available, nobody's saying that, and it has been processed, and we had the hearing, which we're required to do by law. And so now we're going to have some other hearings based on it, and we'll come up with a decision. That's not saying that he won't end up with the license in the end. It's
I
just
understand,
saying
but I don't know
that
what
we
the
want to make it fair to everybody else.
what would be the time frame of that? You know, the time frame can do a lot of harm here. I don't know what kind of time frame you have. But I also remember being before the selectmen in past years when the issue used to be everybody submits their applications and you have 4 or 5 people sitting here seeking 2 licenses. And it sort of puts people at odds with one another.
This is an unusual case, Lenny. This was discussed and done while I was on vacation. As a
Right.
chairman, I'm supposed to actually authorize to go on the agenda. It was put on the agenda while I wasn't here, wasn't authorized, just so you know. Number one. Number two, if we had known this was available, we would have made it public to people so we would have the opportunity. We didn't know.
Right.
You
I
came back
understand.
to us and told us it was available, then I asked the office to please check in and find out what was going on. We actually have on our agenda other licenses that were done as through a special act that is still outstanding because people haven't activated them. I think it's on our agenda for the end of this month or the beginning of next month. But this wasn't something we knew about, and the public didn't know about it either.
Right.
So to be fair, I asked the question as well as the board here, what's our standing on this? And we had no idea. This came
Yeah,
really from you, not from us.
Obviously, I have no idea who else had applied or been
Right.
turned down.
Well,
or-
I know we've turned down,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 4 people in the last year have been turned down saying there was no license. I mean, it's embarrassing really all the way around for the ABCC and us, because we just applied for 4 special act licenses that were approved. And how do you go back to the state and tell them we actually had one available all this time? And the ABC just approved them and said nothing.
Gotcha.
So I feel bad about this, but, we're in a situation where we had no idea.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Titlebaum?
Mr. Chairman, given that we would need to notice the hearings 14 days out, we could resume, or actually can begin the comparative hearing on the 10th of February,
That'd be fine.
if
Put
that's,
it out
if that's
there.
okay with you, and then we could,
And if the local newspapers would assist us as well in putting out that we have 1 license available, it would be greatly appreciated, and that they need to apply immediately.
And the application deadline would be,
well, in order to notice it timely, it would have to be, let's see, we'd have to get it noticed by the 27th?
Remember, you have to get your ads in by Thursday.
Yeah, so a couple of days.
well, yeah,
You can't really advertise.
Maybe we should push it to the 17th.
You can
the
advertise for it,
17th
but
is
you can't.
probably.
you can't
Probably
list-
push it to the 17th, and then
17th is
that's,
more
just to be
realistic.
fair.
Mr. Bowden, do we have to sit there and actually list the people who applied for the hearing?
No,
Or
I
just a
don't think
blanket hearing?
No, with your permission, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
you're now putting the public on notice of the situation. Presumably, the newspapers will pick up on it. It's now a matter of the public record. If people want to apply before the deadline you set, they may do so. If they don't want to, that's fine.
So we-
Rescheduled for the 17th.
Would you be looking for Mr. Hurlbert to be back here on the 17th? Is there a,
I don't think it's necessary.
We have his
Okay.
full application. We have no issue with his application at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
we've done what we needed to do.
okay.
What about
And you
the
also have the,
common vehiculars license?
yeah, we're gonna take care of that next.
They're gonna
We
do
also,
that
just so you know, we have the Standard Times is here, Wareham Week, and the Courier here. So they should be able to take care of that.
All right,
Handle the
next
common
we
vic
have
license.
a regular common vic for this. I move we approve Shenanigans Bar and Grill, Inc. of 2691 Cranberry Highway for an annual common particular license.
Second.
Mrs. Whiteside is smiling because of the pronunciation. Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Knew she'd
4-0.
jump on
Sorry
me
for
for
the
that.
laugh. It's just an internal thing
Yeah.
about stuff we do.
She loves,
We
she
keep-
loves,
Marion.
she doesn't love it. Yeah, we got an English teacher sitting right next to us. It's a terrible thing. A terrible thing to be clerk and have your English teacher next to you.
I wasn't your English teacher.
No,
No,
but,
thank God. Thank
You are now.
if you were my English teacher, boy, you wouldn't be sitting here now, I don't think.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
you, gentlemen.
I don't think you considered it. All right,
Let's bring Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Campino.
Mr. Campina, can you come back?
You Get your skis on for Denver?
We had to give you the rush that way, and it's just better this way. I mean, this is important stuff to the rush by.
I appreciate it. I truly do. I won't, I'll just,
Can we
So-
can we stop for a minute?
yes,
So
go ahead.
people don't try-
Absolutely.
On the
Absolutely.
solar, I just
Yes.
want to go back. The solar was a project that we had lined up, but we had to put on hold because of our Sage Power and things that happen there with the solar, with the amount, we can buy whatever we want, but if we can't use it, you can't buy it.
Right.
It doesn't work. So I asked Guy to go back and look at the possibility of taking the water pollution control facility, where the land is, where everybody's using landfills and using solar projects everywhere. The only issue right now is the state has stopped their very large SREC program for big projects, but this would still be in the smaller range, so it's a possibility. We may or may not actually get use of the electricity at a lower rate, but we might actually end up getting income back for leasing the property. It just depends how it works out. But I don't want to lose the opportunity to do that, because that land sits and has no value and no usage at all, so we must take advantage of it. So that's why we're going back at this again. Go ahead, guys, sorry.
No, no problem, I agree. I would have elaborated, but absolutely, which is, it's encouraging. I just want to say
And-
that.
May I just make
Sure.
one other comment?
Absolutely.
It's on the Swift speech.
Yes.
You say here that you're going to be working with municipal maintenance in identifying town roads, private roads, and blah, blah, blah. There is a report that will be coming through the town administrator with what we will call the finalized for real listing, and a taking for sewer is different from making a road a public road, I think, for the record.
You're right, and the only reason we're concerned is because if we cut a road, then the road has to be rehabilitated. And some of these roads need rehabilitation. So the question became, could Chapter 90 funds be used,
Right.
not Chapter 90 funds? How do we pool our resources? How do we get the work done? So that's the reason that they were moving forward to identify, and you guys are moving forward, so that's excellent. So some roads we can, if they're private, we can't touch them as far as Chapter 90 funds, and if they're ours, then we can. So that's in the big picture of, as we rehab sewers, there's drainage rehab, and water department can get involved, everybody can get involved in this project, but we need to know the revenues, and that's a big one. So
Thank you.
that's what that is. Okay, I&I, as you know, we've done Swiss speech, we have found excessive I&I, and that's what we're after. Now we're into onset, and what we're doing is, we look at pump stations and all the pipes that come to that pump station, and we call them areas, because it's all by the linear foot, to identify excessive I&I, and it's done through the DEP and TR16 manuals on procedure. And it's so many gallons per inch per mile, and that's how it's figured out. So we're doing that now to identify where the greatest amount of infiltration and inflow is. And then we can strategically attack it, because A, it's capacity to the sewer plant, which is critical at this point, and the cost of treating groundwater, which is critical. So that's the reason why we're doing extensive research opposed to just picking areas that we suspect. We're going to actually look at it. And the same thing as with speech, we're going to camera now, we're going to look at the lines, actually we're going to put flow meters and just identify if it's just two streets that's giving 80% of your I&I, then my goodness, that's where you start. So it's all for identification purposes and where we put our money. So that's the process that we're in there.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I
Go
ask
ahead.
a question? Guy, when there is water main breaks, or can you just go through the last one and give an idea of, you know, how much we treated? I know we don't know exactly off the top of our head, but the estimates and what that means to us.
We had in onset, in Oneset Heights, we had a water main break, and that water come out of the ground and migrated to a sewer manhole, entered that manhole, and to the tune of 14,400 gallons approximately per hour. We know of a 24-hour period that we can actually verify. And we're looking at the records now. We think it was in that neighborhood probably days previous to that. And that's quite costly. We're talking about treating pure water for quite some time. We're talking about pumps, and also what troubles me is it pulled in a lot of sand. We had done TSS studies that day, and we pulled in quite a bit of sand to the system, so we got to chase that sand. So this is going to encompass some costs. So we're going to try to tabulate those costs. And go from there. I find it interesting how it seeked out and found that manhole, and it could be other places. They've got old lines, and so it could be a more extensive problem. That day particularly, we had to notify the Fisheries and Games, the whole 9 yards, and treat it as a sewer SSO. And then when we found out that it was not, we're able to notify the proper agencies, especially fisheries, and validate that it was not sewer, but it was in fact drinking water that never touched sewer, because sewer was down 8 feet, never came out of the manhole, out of the pipes, and the water coming in never mingled with the sewer water and came back out. So they were able to do their thing, and again, shellfishing and open up and that type of thing. So it was quite a day.
And the cost is, as soon as it enters our system, we're treating it.
We're treating it. We're treating it, we're moving it, we're moving from pump station to pump station to pump station to the plant, so there's cost getting it there, transporting it there, treating it, all those things, so we have to put a number to it. And then we'll do what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Anybody?
All right, so, yeah, obviously, we don't want to treat water problems. And, you know, in most municipalities, this wouldn't be an issue because we'd be the water department as well, which we happen not to be here. But there's going to be these issues along the way, and we need to maybe work closer with them in some form or another. And I don't know if you've reached out to them to start some dialogue as far as this is going on. I mean, maybe there's some other things you need to research too and do some work together.
We spent considerable time that day and since then. I think tomorrow they're going to start making the actual repair, because they don't know where it is. So that starts tomorrow. So we have dialogue ongoing about the problem. There's going to be future dialogue on costs and costs going forward.
Right.
And Chairman Slavin has set up a meeting. We'll talk about that, because we have other things to talk about, and this just be one of the
Okay.
discussions we have.
As long as we just have some reaching out here.
Absolutely.
You
There's
know,
no hostility.
It's easy to, yeah, we don't want to have any
No,
hostility.
there's no hostility
It's
whatsoever.
easy to attach blame to somebody else and, you know, whatever. But it's much better to have a working relationship, because, believe it or not, at some point, we may have an issue that will affect them. And it'll be nice if we can work through those issues and be, you know, as a team instead of as two adversarials for some one reason.
I agree, and I think we're not adversarial, but we are, they would hold me responsible, I'll hold them responsible. That's all we're saying,
Right.
responsibility, that's what it comes down to. It's a cost, that's all it is. I'm sure if I was polluting their wells and it cost money to treat that, they would definitely look to us for some type of compensation. And that'd be fair, and just the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm
is
sure
that
they
it's just
know that.
fairly, yeah, so we're not trying to.
I'm sure they understand that, but
yeah.
let's try to
doing
keep it a working relationship.
We have a good relationship with Paul in the water district. I don't meet with the commissioners, don't know them, but that's going to be the level of Chairman Slavin will take that lead, and I'm sure that'll be a good relationship.
All right, awesome.
We
Thank you.
we have a meeting scheduled either for the 2nd or the 12th. We actually put this together, I believe, before the water issue came up.
Mm.
And this is things that we're doing. This is an initiative that was done probably 6 months ago,
Yeah.
where we're meeting with the 2 fire and water districts and the town to work on things where we have common interests, common expenses, projects that we can work on. So it's a good thing we finally started this. We've talked about it, so it's actually paying dividends already.
We do have we do sewer all the time. We have a great
Yeah.
working relationship with
We
the
do.
Onset Fire District. I mean, a
Right.
great relationship, and we'll continue that.
All right, good.
So an eye on that, General. Now, grants, we have the grants we're working on. Right now, we're out to bid to do all the different types of probes in the process stream. And that's going to allow us to react to nitrogen a lot faster, reduce our nitrogen to the river. We're pretty excited about that. We're waiting back from the state for the sucking grant, and that one I'm more excited about because it talks about resiliency, it talks about climate, it talks about the vulnerability of our pump stations on the ocean. And so we'll be able to assess that and then set up an emergency plan in the event that something catastrophic was to happen. And that excites me because we are a seaside community. We do have pump stations that are vulnerable, and we need to have something in place. So when it happens, we're prepared. So that one's going to start shortly. We're pretty excited about that. Our ambulance is done, the camera truck, it's exciting, it looks nice. Now they reminded me, I keep forgetting, now we gotta take off the red and blue lights. We're kinda hoping to be out there, but they said they gotta go, so right now we're taking off the red and blue lights and putting all amber, and then it's totally functional. And more than just cameraing, we're also gonna make it emergency response vehicles, and have some harnesses and things of that sort, so we can go out to maybe a manhole, and be able to get in the manhole with the proper equipment, the proper, meters to check for gases, whatnot, and so we're gonna also, add that to its repertoire, so we're pretty excited about that. Our Vector truck, we're excited, it had a bad, when we purchased it, the blinker switch blew, which took out some of the lights, and so that's finally gotten done. It amazes me how long it takes to get a part from Ford for something older, but it's done, so that's gonna be on the road tomorrow. And the first thing we're gonna do is the industrial park. We had a very bad backup there with the, I maybe not gonna mention the company, but they, put probably about 1,000 pounds of lard into our system, and it plugged everything up. I've got a block in the back of my truck that shows, so I tell people this is what's coming out of that factory, so next time you eat something, think about it. But nonetheless, it plugged up that entire line, affected other businesses. So we got it all cleaned out. I put the company on notice, they'll pay for everything that was to present and plus going forward. We're going to clean every line in Industrial Park, take it to Thatcher, and all the way down Toby Road. Toby Road has issues anyways, this just compounded it, so we're gonna clean all that out, and we're gonna build this company, and they're aware of that, and so we'll continue, so we'll get that done. So we're excited about having our own Vector truck to complete that task. The pods, we're pretty excited about. That was our odor control for our raw sewer basins. The pods have been very effective. They're about 85%. They reduced the odor by about 85% last year, reduced our odor complaints considerable, very manageable, and we're excited about that. Again, with the grease issue, the pods are floating on grease, and we have to resolve that. We've got the implementation of the grease ordinance that you folks were able to put into place. And so we're going to, over the winter, we're going to meet with the different restaurants, and we're going to have some discussions on what we're looking to do, hand them the ordinance and talk about different things. So they're aware. How they can help, maybe listen to the suggestions on how we can implement this smoothly for us and for them. So our first meeting is scheduled to be at the New Mexican restaurant. I'm going to verify that, it's something they offered, and then we'll go to different restaurants because they're the ones that are affected mostly, and we'll have those meetings at the restaurants, and they can put them on, and then we can discuss the policy and how we can implement it that would be less, impact to them and to us. So we're pretty excited about that. The comprehensive wastewater management plan, that's a work in progress. We're looking at different ways of expanding our capacity, whether it's going to be satellite pump stations, expanding our IMA, bringing in other communities. We're looking at all the possibilities, private, public partnerships. If businesses have a piece of land, they want to build something, maybe build a housing development and add an area in town, whatever it takes, because we know capacity is integral to the growth of Wareham. And with the down the road, we've got the TDML, I believe it is, the total daily maximum load of nitrogen to our area. That's going to affect us big time. We have a lot of septic systems, at least 50% of the town. So it's going to be big to us, so we have to really consider that and how we're going to handle it. And so sewer is going to become critical as we move forward. So we're looking at ways to address that.
I have a question, sir.
Sure.
Does it really say we're looking into an ocean discharge?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking into an ocean, absolutely. We are. We've talked to DEP, EPA. We certainly are. What happens is Agawam has, as you know, a max of 1.56. We're almost there. Once we hit that, that's it. We're done. So we have two options. We can probably use the existing facility and maybe increase our loading by having greater treatment, and so it becomes a loading factor. In years, we'll figure that out. But what makes more sense is an ocean discharge. We're talking to the Department of Transportation. We have a beautiful rail. Yeah, we're definitely talking about that. We're pretty excited about it. It's all in the infancy stages. It's exciting, but
I hate to go back in time, but let's go
Yes.
back in time. One of the most revolting sights I've ever seen in my entire life is the ocean discharge that used to be coming out of New Bedford.
What you're going to say about ocean discharges today, the requirements are quite stringent. And they're not like the old day of an open pipe just pouring in. And one thing we do not have is a combined sewer. Combined sewers become very problematic because during heavy rainstorms, there's very little treatment. You just hit it with some chlorine and let it out. We have a closed system. You see, so our permit is still gonna be the same. We have 4 ppm of nitrogen, 0.2 of phosphorus. That's not gonna change. So when ocean discharge will allow us more dilution, which you call more flushing, where agawam is very restrictive. So we are looking at that, and it's very possible. The state has just opened up the moratorium on Cape Cod to allow ocean discharges. So they're back in the playing field. So we'd like to examine that and see if it's something Wareham can do in the future.
But if you reduce your INI, you may not have that capacity problem.
Yeah, again, we're looking at all options because you begin with the easiest, and it may be, let's say that we reduce the INI by 200,000 gallons tomorrow. That's our capacity.
Well, by 20%, say.
Whatever the number is.
Whatever, yeah.
So that's our capacity.
Okay.
Okay, that's today and maybe next 5 years.
Yep.
What are we gonna do 10 years down the road? I mean, we're looking at long term. When we do our CIP, it's a 20-year picture.
Okay.
The same thing has to be for moving Wareham forward. I can't just think of tomorrow and forget 20 years down the road because although it won't affect me, but it's gonna affect somebody. So when we look at sewering and longevity of the town of Wareham and where we're gonna be in 20 years, we can look at all our options because as we use up, if you will, our options, we have to have something behind it. I just don't like to get caught in a situation.
No,
where
I
we're
appreciate
panicking,
your
so.
comments and your clarification on that. And I love the pun. This process will remain fluid.
Yes, yes. See, I thought you'd appreciate that,
Also,
and it will.
on your, also on the TMDL, so people understand, the state's been working on this for basically the discharge that goes into the waterways and the ocean from all communities along the water.
Yeah.
The Cape in particular, even on the 2 islands, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, what they're going to allow is going to be so stringent that from a cost standpoint and even just to meet their new regulations coming, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be time consuming and change a lot of the way that they do things. And
incredible.
unfortunately in Wareham, we're at the end of the stream is what I call it. Whatever, everybody, if someone takes a dump 50 miles north of us, 40 miles, we end up with it. So we're at the end of the road, as they say. So everything comes through us into Cape Cod and into the Buzzards Bay. So
And you're right, we may have to reach out to our surrounding communities
we're going to have
that
to.
contribute to our issue, because it's really their issue as well. And we have to have these joint
It's-
committees to solve it, because it can't be all on us. I agree 100%.
It's everybody's issue right now, but
Yeah, no, you're true, because it's gonna affect us, and we really have to consider it.
I'm not looking forward to those numbers.
Me neither.
The
Me
last
neither.
one is the one I'm interested in.
The rate implementation, that's
We
not,
haven't had-
that's
we
not
haven't had
mine,
a
that's, I'm
We haven't
sorry?
had a single hearing or anything yet. and
Yes, we
need-
have.
We have?
Not public, we've had, I've met with the engineers.
Yeah.
We've met with the engineer, town administrator, and Mr. Slavin, we've had a meeting, and we got good direction, we're looking for direction, and so now they're gonna schedule your next public meeting, which is coming up shortly, and that's not I don't wanna speak for them, but yeah, that's coming up, and you'll have the public meeting, and all that's been discussed will be presented, absolutely.
So what's going on with that?
We basically, remember, he said at the end of January, beginning of February, he'd be ready to go. That's what we're waiting on. They just came in and
Okay,
gave,
because,
just to the town administrator, just gave him a report of where they were at, but
I
no
don't-
numbers yet.
I mean, we're running out of time.
We know that.
Okay, I
Mhm.
just
No,
want
it's-
everybody to be aware, we're running out of time.
Absolutely, and
Yep.
it's foremost in our thoughts, and we're really working at it, and we looked at the different things that can affect it, and that's what we're playing
And
these
for
scenarios.
instance, the grease issue, which you just came up with, is a
Absolutely.
prime example of why this is so important.
Absolutely.
It's not just for the fairness of the rates, it's for the fairness of the system.
No, absolutely, and we're taking all that in consideration. And it's, I do want to say that it's, in my opinion, more involved than some folks think. I think it's just like I said, the numbers. It's
No.
pretty involved.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot that has to happen, and a lot of pieces that go into this, a lot of pieces. And so, I mean, they've been working pretty hard at it, so I just.
Okay.
And, so that's pretty much what I had. I just want to bring it out there. What I want everybody to know is that, there's been a lot happening, and you guys have supported us, and all the decisions you've made and the town meetings have made. I want people to know that we're moving forward on all these things. They're not just thrown on the side. We're actually working them, and we're very busy, and we'll continue to be busy. So everybody's aware of what's going on.
I appreciate the update.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Guy.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks.
for all the hard work.
Next up would be the presentation of the GSI, but he's still sick.
I'm going to move that to the 17th of February.
Discussion WCTV contract.
Mr. Hurd, Mr. White.
Ellen, you need to talk closer to the mic.
Sorry. Good evening, everybody.
Can you identify yourselves for the record, please?
I'm Jay Hurd. I'm the Executive Director at WCTV.
John White, President of the Board of Directors for WCTV.
Singer.
No title, huh?
Mr. White, you need to pull the mic closer to you.
Closer. The reason we basically asked the WCTV to come in was, basically, we have a couple of things going on, but we finally got a contract signed way back in, I think, the June of 2013, after WCTV sitting with the town since 2005, maybe, not getting contracts done.
Yeah.
I know I worked very hard with Matt Underhill to get it all done, get the money issues straightened out, and got done. And we basically haven't really followed through on the contracts to make sure everything's in place, running and everything else. One of the big things I'm concerned about when I was going through, I realized that this contract basically says on March 31st, 2015, our portion of the contract is over as far as Comcast between WCTV and the town, because the contract is written in such a way, and we haven't had any discussions. I know we can extend the contract, I think, to the Verizon date, with agreement from the board, but I'm concerned that we haven't said boo. We have an outside group, which includes members of WCTV and the board in town. Mr. Titlebaum, you're on the board?
Yes.
And this is the contract between Comcast and the town. And I've got the booklet sitting there, which is about that thick. I've actually read it and gone through all of it. And I know they're working at it. We're getting letters from the state, getting very nervous, saying you haven't done anything yet. We haven't heard anything. And is Comcast going to no longer be broadcasting in Wareham because you won't make the date? So we're basically, I've got some things that have gone over, but
Just to jump in on that, that's frankly a bunch of drama from the state,
it doesn't matter. I understand that. All I'm trying to get at is that
and I hope they're listening.
we're running to the last minute, and I don't like doing that. That's not the way we do things, because when you run to the last minute, you end up having problems. So basically, I don't know if the board has any questions. I just have a few. I've already contacted Mr. Hurd ahead of time and, went through some of the things just for in general. Trying to see where we are here. We have several issues one issue that I've never seen explained, and I think the public should know. It's a PEG access. PEG means public education and government. My question has always been, when I looked at the contract originally and the agreements, how much goes in actual time, monies, and effort into public versus education versus government? Because it doesn't say a third, a third, and a third. So this is something that really, going forward into the next contract, we should be discussing. The other issues, as far as base issues, is membership and stuff. We have in the agreement, it says that we're supposed to be outreach with membership to keep the membership growing. I don't know where you're at with that. That's another question I have. I have questions on, which is outreach, of course. We have a few issues. As you know, we've requested some equipment. It's been kind of put on hold. Actually, we requested stuff as far back as 2 years ago, and there's pieces there. We have on the annual reports and stuff, we're supposed to get, if I want to read it correctly, at least once every calendar year, we should get an annual report which should contain a minimum of the following information: a summary of programming and services, a list of all of future goals, current and complete listing of WCTV's board of directors, a complete inventory of all equipment, and a year-end fiscal audit or review in compliance with the Mass Division of Public Charities. Because even though you guys had money that we owed you, which was quite a bit, you still are able to generate a financial statement which shows accrued revenues, et cetera. And I don't think this board or any board has seen any statements or anything. So when we're discussing things, we have no idea whatsoever what's happening. And we do have a fiduciary responsibility, because that is taxpayers' money going into this. So, through, they're paying the cable fees and taxes. And again, we're not picking on it. We're just, these are things that just aren't happening. And we have a tendency to get too relaxed and not do what we're supposed to do in life. I have some issues that we need to have some clarification on the insurance coverages, which are listed in page 11 of the contract as well. We have nothing on record of the town. We need to have that on record, which I know, I spoke to Steve, I expect to see a lot of it. That's why I asked ahead of time. Because we're not here to pick on anybody or embarrass anybody at all. And that's just some of the things in general. I don't know if the board has any questions, but I just want to make sure we're in compliance, both sides, and that going forward, we really get on the stick and and at least start discussions on the contract, because it's here.
Right.
That's it for me, the board. Peter?
About says it all.
Mrs. Whiteside?
No, we had a conversation and the same comments that you have elucidated were brought up, and I think that we understand what you need and you understand what we need.
Mr. Tropiano?
How close are we to getting the contract resolved by March 31st?
Which one, Comcast?
Comcast.
I
Yeah,
can't answer that
Verizon
'cause
is until 2017.
17. I can't answer that because we have not got a report from that committee back to the board ever. Although we have a couple board members here for that particular, not board, committee members.
Better than a couple of members. You've got the chairman here.
Yeah.
Can the
So
chairman
maybe
come down and try to give
enlighten
me a
us a little
little
bit there.
enlightenment, please?
I think we're a little further along the road than people realize.
Yeah, the contract will be done by March 31st. There's no doubt.
Do you have an agreement in place?
There's not an agreement in place yet, no. But we're working with it with Mary O'Keefe. She had a death in the family, so we've actually had to postpone 2 meetings this month with her. But we're still pretty much on track.
Well, you know that they're in violation of their agreement,
In what way?
in that they moved the Comcast office to Fairhaven? In the agreement, it says they have to keep that office in Marion?
Actually, that was going to be discussed on that
But they've
the
already
first
done
meeting.
that. They've already
Yes.
done it
Yes, I
even
did.
before the end of the contract.
Yeah, that has to be, that's an issue that has to be dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah, because that just makes it more inconvenient for our users to pick up
Right.
equipment.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
an
mean,
additional
we
expense
made
that's
that
passed on to the
specific in
user
the
to drive another
As a
10
chairman,
miles,
I don't
so,
really
yeah.
want that to, and a ratepayer, I don't want that to stand as
Well,
is, but,
'Cause
Yeah, we've got that stick.
I know that was a big sticking point in the beginning when
Yes, it was.
we negotiated the contract, because I was chairman at the time, when we,
Mhm.
remember? When we sat in that office and did it, it was a sticking point.
it's going to be a sticking point this time, too.
So how close are you, do you think you're gonna make a March contract?
I believe we will, still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
We,
you-
I mean, there's
Okay.
there's a strategy that we have in place with the lawyer and,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
with
Well,
our
that-
counsel, so.
I know your counsel, I know
I
how
know
it
you do.
works,
I know you
trust me. And,
I've known him for almost 30 years.
I think on the Verizon, I believe we have to go to Lakeville for that one.
What's that?
I think for Verizon, in order to get equipment, you gotta go to Lakeville.
You do.
Yes, you do.
I'm a Verizon customer. That's where
Yeah.
you go.
That's
Yep.
a long way.
And just since you brought up the question about those papers will, Peter's correct, that it is drama on the state's part. Doesn't matter what you do, you continually get those every month anyway.
We know
Those
that.
papers is, okay, as long as you know.
But we get them anyway, so. We used to get things previously in the previous administration, little warnings from the state, and we used to be told, don't worry, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
So I'm a little gun shy sometimes.
Well, I've actually been, I actually am on the phone with them, with the state on a relatively regular basis, so.
It'd probably be a good idea if your committee, rather than having come in and call, but, send us a report or something, give the board some idea where we're at.
We can do that.
Because when we get these notices, we can't answer them. Because
Right.
they don't come to you, they come to us,
Right.
and we have no answer for them.
We could just continue ignoring them.
You can do that when you're chair.
And just so you know, I have been through every page in that book, just so you.
well, the other thing goes to your contract with us, and of course, that's a difficult, without this piece, this piece becomes difficult to put together.
Right.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah,
So,
it's the math.
Yeah, it's math and, some of the questions about, filings and things of that nature, will have to get dealt with at some point, but sort of these two components, I remember this, we did this way after the contract, right? I remember it took us quite a while to get to this.
You're talking about the WCTV?
Yeah,
slash town
yeah.
park
We
project,
originally
yeah.
got the contract put together, and then we had to deal with this. And this took quite a bit of time after, if I remember
Yeah, only 8
correctly.
years. Several years, yeah.
It's several years, yeah,
8 years.
exactly. And then we had, of course, we had the problem with money being held, and we had to go through that whole thing. And of course, we don't want to have to go through all that again.
Right.
So we,
Not a big
quicker we
fan.
can step up to the plate and get this part out of the way, then with this part,
Mhm.
we can kind of get together and throw this together and get
Right,
this
we should have probably had it worked out to have the contract staggered a little bit, but
Yeah,
that's
it would
hindsight
be
at this
nice
point.
if they were staggered, but
This
they
wasn't set up that way.
weren't set up that way.
Floor is yours now. I basically threw out my questions, so.
Could you take one at a time? We'll address
All right,
it.
go
Just,
for it.
I think you've got them. I'll just go through them and whatever you have for us.
We have everything.
Just go, you gotta go through.
We
it.
have,
if-
John, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna, one thing I would just mention is, and obviously this board knows and remembers what we went through to get to the point where Patrick just
Oh,
mentioned.
I know, it was
So,
embarrassing for
The,
I basically made a statement that I'm embarrassed that the Board of Selectmen took all those years and never got it done.
It was very
we
embarrassing.
appreciate the effort that
You
you
know, and it
went
took
through.
us about 6 months back and forth once we got our teeth in it.
Yeah.
But
But since then, and we have recently had all of the reviews done for the years that we were waiting for
Yep.
that, the reconciliation to happen, so that we do have all of those for you, so.
Give 'em
Go
up.
ahead.
Yeah. Well, those are 2012 and 13. 14's not done yet. And then we have from 2000, let me give them the other copies.
This is good, that's Alan.
This, not this. That we need, oh, he's gonna
This is one whole packet.
Okay.
Has all of the measures, not just the two.
Ooh, accountant's review. You got your last,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. We'll put these on file in the Selectmen's office.
in 2012, okay, so we got 2 years of financials, good. Okay.
Yep, that's what we need.
Obviously, you're not gonna study this tonight. We're not gonna study this tonight, obviously, but.
No, you'll be ready for tomorrow morning. Yes.
You could just wait till the movie comes out.
Yeah, I think I will.
Uh,
I'm not a numbers person, they'll tell me what's in there.
So,
I know, there
this
might
is
be
gonna
one
take
for the
forever
other
to go
selectmen or
through
not.
this whole thing. We better,
No, they're not
No,
gonna do it.
maybe we can get some digesting
No,
of
they've
this.
got the answers that we asked
All
for.
right, okay, good.
And they basically got everything we need.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
good.
for
It's a start. We got more.
bringing
Yeah, that's
us the
If you need
information.
anything else, ask and we'll.
Now, the only thing we'll need to resolve is, with Matt and stuff, is some of the, and Mr. Sullivan, a few of the equipment needs that we've asked for a while, which is available to us, you know, with a discussion back and forth.
We were sort of hoping that we would maybe pull that into the discussions of a new building, and, because some of the, it may be redundant equipment is what we're thinking.
Yeah, there's certain things I think we have to find out whether or not the things we're asking for the police fit into the contract, because I think there's some discussion about whether it's applicable or not. There are a few things we were looking for at Town Hall, which will have no effect on the actual location of the new studio. So if we can get those resolved over the next few months, would really be helpful.
Okay.
All right, because those are the easy things. You know, I understand, it's easy for us to ask for stuff, but if it doesn't fall within the guidelines of the contract, we don't get it.
We can't give it to you.
I know you can't.
That's,
So that's why we understand what's going on. But what I'd like to see going forward is to have some kind of a basis of as I started, what PEG is, you know, as far as what you plan to do, you know, as far as public education and government. I know you do a very good job on the education side. The public has no clue, unfortunately, because you don't publicize what you do, really. But as far as government, all people see is they televise these events and a few of the others, but there's more things involved than on the public side. I know I went in way back and took training on how to, you know, use the cameras, film, edit, everything else. And again, I'm not sure how much outreach you're doing right now as far as getting new members, because I think your stagnant have gone down somewhat from a few years ago. But I think the more members you draw into the organization, they in turn tell other people, and then you become more effective. But that's just my thought, you know, I'm not sure what's going on overall, but I think that's one point that I don't see the effort that it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I remember it was a big effort back then.
We did put a big effort in. We didn't get a great deal of results out of that big effort,
No,
so.
I think maybe we take and send stuff home with the kids per se and tell their parents to get
We're still working on
involved with
it.
it.
We have a couple things planned, so.
I mean, I don't think people realize, you know, if they have like a private, if they have different events and things they do, or they have different groups and stuff, they can go in and build their own commercial, you know, and have it available and everything else.
That's right.
It's really, you know, it's an easy thing. It's easy to make the film. Just have Bob White edit it. He's got nothing better to do. Right, Bob? And take care of it. But I wish people would use the station a lot more. It's
We do
really a
too.
good
Yeah, we
asset.
do too.
You know, it's really easy. It's not that hard.
Mm.
All right, thanks very much for coming in. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thanks for your
Thanks.
support.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next I have reformation of the Wareham Veterans Council.
This one here, I
Gentlemen,
believe
why
town council was going to do some work. I don't think we're ready to vote on anything today, but
No, but they need to have a copy and
Yep.
input. Gentlemen, can you come forward?
Yeah, come on down.
Julio? Just for background, we met last week, talked about the, getting the Veterans Council up and running and take care of all the loose ends and coming up with an actual plan so the town helps support it, because I think last year for Memorial Day, we were very much disappointed, and we had lost some key members, and we really weren't doing a very good job. And then the Veterans Day, we do a very good job because of efforts of certain people, but we need, we need a solid organization. And of course, they lost,
Could you give
I
Mr.
believe
White?
you lost 3 key members of the
Right.
Veterans Council, and they've been there for years. So we're trying to come up with a program where the town can help support what goes on here. It's an important thing to all of us. Mrs. Whiteside was kind of vehement, to say the least. I think she threatened to do some bodily damage, among other things. But either way, the bottom line is, we want to get this done. We have a basic draft that the town council put together, and then we need to have some input from you gentlemen, which we don't have ahead of time now, and probably we'll go back to this in a week or two and come up with a formal presentation of what it's going to be.
So,
Mr. Bowen, do you want to go forward, or do you want Mrs. Whiteside to go forward?
yeah, this really puts into writing what we talked about, I think. It would be a committee appointed by us and with staggered or rotating terms, so that there would be 3 and then 3 and then 3, okay? 1 member from the VFW post, and I didn't remember the number, and 1 from the American Legion post. And if either one of those are to merge into another post or whatever, then that member could come from there too. In other words, if you merge with Kalamazoo, Michigan, we're not going to, but you know what I'm saying. So there would be 1 member is the Veteran Services Officer. 3 members shall be veterans of the Armed Forces of the United States. I had written honorably discharged in there. I'm not sure whether you care about that or whether you don't. 3 members.
I think it's kind of important, because you don't want somebody with a dishonorable discharge.
Thank you. 3 members would be at-large members who may or may not be veterans, okay? 2 associate members who would not have a vote would come from the Wareham JROTC program at the high school, and 1 from the Mass Maritime Academy ROTC program, again, just because they are feeder programs to the services. Right. Your committee would elect your own chairman, vice chairman, and clerk, and you would have 1-year terms, the same way, that other boards and commissions do. And really what your purpose would be to advise the selectmen or the town administrator concerning all veterans events having patriotic significance which are sponsored by the town. Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, Veterans Day, and the birthdays of each of the services. Okay? You also would be charged with planning, developing, and executing any kinds of programs and activities that you want to undertake. And instead of being out there alone, which I think is kind of what people have thought, we're behind you, 100%. All of us, to a man and a woman. There's not one of us here who wants to see what has happened, which is really a loss of interest.
Thank you.
It just is outrageous, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is
Appreciate
important.
that.
That is important to have the board and a community behind this thing. I just have one question, Judy.
Yes.
We discussed last Thursday, as far as associate members. How many we needed for quorum if some people didn't show up, and you've just stated that the 2 associate members, which would come from the ROTC junior program.
They don't vote.
And 1 from Mass Maritime.
They don't vote.
They don't vote,
count.
so
your
what's
quorum
going to
was-
happen if, through sickness?
Your quorum, yeah,
Or quorum?
is 5.
5, okay.
5,
Yeah,
okay?
all right. And I know it probably never happened, but what if that quorum's not there? I mean, is there a plan B? No? No? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
And you have to follow the open meeting rules, which will give you a copy of, you post
Okay.
your meetings and you
Mhm.
keep minutes and that kind of thing, so that people are involved and do know how much work is going into what you're doing. Including the lists of the veterans in the town hall,
Right.
including working possibly with the Eagle Scout young man who was here, 3 or 4 weeks ago, with the proper flag disposal, helping keeping the cemeteries in the appropriate fashion as opposed to not.
We could also, if you
Wait,
want.
here's a question.
Just a
The
quick
member
thing.
of the,
We can also change the, just so we don't get off track on the subject, the associates. We could add 2 regular associates, which means they're people in training. So if for some reason you basically lose members, you have someone ready to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
there was a person from the VFW that was in charge of the cemetery portion of it, I believe. I tried to locate him over the weekend. I couldn't find him. Someone said he works at the bank now. I'm still trying to catch up with him. He also was a member of Veterans Council.
Okay.
I believe we've reached out to everybody that was listed on the council from the Selectmen's office to find out if they had any interest still that were there. There was 4 people, I believe. There were 3 that aren't there anymore, but there was 4 on that list that we had
Right.
that, haven't been reappointed or anything else to see if they had any interest or not. 2 of the gentlemen were in their 80s and didn't know how they would get there or not. And I think there was 2 more we hadn't reached yet. So it's got to be in the group you're talking about.
And I think part of what you,
Lombard, yeah, Mr. Lombard. Did you speak with him?
I didn't, I have to check with the office. I asked the office, I think last week when I was in about it, and they said they had, Janet Wilson had got a hold of 1 who knew the other one, but we hadn't gotten rid of the other 2 yet. I can get you those answers.
Okay, good enough, thank you.
We're trying.
I think one of the things we talked about is availability. You don't want to be meeting at 9 o'clock at night. You want to be able to meet in a time and a place that is accessible to you and your members. And we would work with you on that issue. We met, I think, in the conference room on the 3rd floor the other day.
Right.
I had so many meetings, I forget, sorry.
We had a meeting Sunday, and we discussed
You did, okay.
that Sunday about what we're trying to do, and I guess some of the fellows would go along with it.
Super.
Excellent. I can speak for myself because I'm retired, but I don't have any free time. I'd be happy to come and address any group at any time and, tell you why I think it's important. I am old enough to, if I had been male, I would have been in Vietnam. And I lost several family members, both physically and emotionally, to that conflict. And they are still paying the price, and I am, and you are.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we discussed Thursday was that with the influx of the new veterans coming back, especially Iraq, Afghanistan, and before that, Desert Storm, whatever, and we talked about how, like always, they're going to be reluctant to step up, and I think one of the important jobs that we're going to have, the task of this council, is to help these people to come out and provide information and, a way to find themselves to the veterans agent, and from there, so.
Yeah, and again, I read earlier the article from the Globe about the VA hospital in Brockton building, more housing for veterans. And I think that that's going to become an issue as you guys age, but also as the kids who come back from deployment now. The science of helping people who have come back from combat is for real. I'm not sure that all of you had the opportunity that some of the kids who are coming back now had to help you with what you had to do.
Not only just the veterans, their families,
Yep.
the children. And if you've seen the movie American Sniper, you know, the movie has a powerful message, not just about combat and how rough and horrific that is, but the strain and the mental effect on the families and the children. So it's very important that, you know, we all become involved. It's our community, and I think somebody put the number out there. What would we have, something like 2,000?
Yeah, it was 1,800, and again, I can't remember where we got that number. Yeah.
In our town, and there's going to be more, you know, because of deployment and, you know, anyway. But anyway, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
And we
this thing
did
together.
several months ago said that we would go to the American Legion Hall and do a nice cleanup for you, like raking, painting, and all that. I have a really good group of men who do what I ask them to do from time to time. And they're really good with hammer and nails and rakes and paint, and they make lots of fun of me, but we do get things done, and we would be happy to volunteer. I also have a lot of people who have contacted me who would love to help you plant a garden, you know, do some landscaping, do whatever you need to do.
Well, Sharon Boyer is going to be very happy to hear that Thursday morning.
So
Anyway.
if you can go through what we have there, review it, Mr. White will get a copy and then get back to us with any kind of recommendations. Then what I'll do is, I'll not schedule for next week, but the week after, we'll basically go ahead and try and set this up if you have members available. If not, at least the pieces in place for people to apply for the committee.
And also, if you have questions about the way this is written, please
If you want
contact
changes.
either me or Alan, and we'll get it done. I mean, if you see something
Right.
here that you don't want to see,
Yeah,
let's,
we're going to have a meeting Thursday after coffee hour, I think, some of us, so we'll be able to look at this and just kind of throw it around.
do you want me to come or not?
Yeah.
Robert?
How about bagels and cream cheese would be nice.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Next up, Serped Assistance Program?
Yeah,
This must be you.
that's me.
You want to give us money?
No, they don't really give us money. What they do is
They don't give.
they give us 20 hours for the town side and 20 hours for the planning board side. I've given the paperwork to the planning board. They have a couple projects they're looking at, and Mr. Sullivan has a copy of this also. Just to give you some idea, Serpent offers assistance with projects that you don't have the time and money to do. Potential opportunities, e-permitting solutions for any and all municipality permits and licenses. That falls in with Wareham because our focus group and our EdStat program both mentioned our slow permitting processes.
We've
Save-
already, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we've already taken them up on the e-permitting, so.
Yep, I know. I just want to read off so the
Yeah.
public knows what we had for options. Savings on purchasing capital items and consumables through group beds. They've been working on that for a couple of years now. Energy savings with building equipment upgrades, LED street lighting conversions, which we've done, community aggregation programs, permit guidebooks, prompt and predictable permitting, bylaw amendments to implement growth plans. They helped us with the sign bylaw a year and a half ago, and they helped us again with TDR as well. So these are things that these outside organizations that we're involved with offer to the towns. And unfortunately, there were several years where Wareham didn't use any of the 20 hours on either side, and 40 hours, which is worth about $100 an hour. So it was a shame that we didn't step up.
So it is money.
It is money because we would have to pay to have it done, and we missed some
Exactly.
opportunities. So.
Just wanted to make that point.
And that's all I have on that.
Okay, mosquito control funding for 2016.
I think we have to vote on that one.
Yeah, this is, it's basically a support or non-support document,
Yep.
basically. That's what it says.
Since mosquitoes like us.
Huh?
Yeah, we're friendly with mosquitoes.
Yeah. All right, so this is a declaration of support or non-support for the mosquito control funding for 2016.
So the motion would be whether we support,
Yes,
motion to support?
okay.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside.
And
Any
to have the
questions of the board?
chairman sign this, can you also add to have
Uh,
the chairman sign it, please?
Yes.
Motion to support and authorization to sign for the chairman.
So that's a redo of a motion
Yes.
and remove the other?
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion again by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside on the modification. Any questions? None heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Yeah, we all do. All right, next up is any other business, any other town business not reasonably anticipated last 48 hours prior to posting the meeting, Mr. Titlebaum.
None, but I think Mr. Sullivan is actually requesting a little further information on this mosquito control board stuff. Or at least has a question. Perhaps you could articulate
I
it.
just wanted to verify, because we get this with the veterans, again, a lot of time it's not whether you support them, it's whether you support their increase. We have a state assessment on them no matter what.
Yeah.
And this is their increase. Isn't this the one where they, because I received notification of that, or is this just their
Read the letter.
general?
There's a letter right there. Read the
No,
letter.
I'm just looking at the detail behind
Yeah.
it. Yeah, they don't talk about any increases here in this part of
No,
the...
I don't think it says anything about an increase.
Okay, so that's, because I get a separate one, and
Yeah.
I always say no to any of the increases.
Yeah,
but
this doesn't have
doesn't
anything
help.
about an increase, it's
All
just
right.
whether you
I'm
support it or
shocked.
not support it. All right, so, Mr. Titlebaum, Ms. Whiteside. 48-hour business. No, myself, no.
No.
Mr. Chairman, no. Okay. Consent agenda. All right, I have approval of minutes. January 13th. I move we approve the minutes of the regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting of January the 13th, 2015.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Okay, that's it for the consent agenda. Town Administrator's report, please.
Thank you very much. In front of you, you have the November unadjusted expenditure budget to actual. Again, we just go over the items that are over the expected percent expended year to date and going through it. Really, there's none that are, we still have the issue
Thank you, Jerry.
with unemployment, but with the reduced amount of weeks and benefits that are available, we're tracking that one, and it should decrease and fall within the budget. The other item is the general services, which is our posting, our mail machine, and there. What people don't understand, I think, is how we pay the same amount of postage and just how much you can spend on there. I mean, we load up that machine with about $5,000 at a time, and with the level of correspondence coming out of the town and the cost of postage nowadays, that gets eaten up very quickly. Library is high on the personnel side, but what they've chosen to do is they're using up some of the grants and such that they have available for their expenses, and at the Springtown meeting, we will do an intra-budget transfer from expenses to salary to cover that overage, so I'm not concerned about that. There's really, the police budget has been held well in line. However, I know that we will have some officers leaving through retirement and other attrition, and between the buyouts and the overtime, that's really, we're going to keep that in check. 'Cause when you look at it, a 1.5% or 1.7% variance, that's only $58,000, which can be eaten up in overtime right away if you have 3 gaps within within the shifts for the week. So, Chief Walsh knows about that, advised me of the concerns, and we're keeping on top of it. The Inspectional Services Department, because Mr. Moore's paid out of the expense line, as he's a contractor, we know we'll have to do a transfer from salary to expenses at the Springtown meeting. The health budget line, right, it's changing a little bit because we used to just transfer into the health trust fund. You'd have 12 payments that you're essentially transferring in there. Right now, we have roughly 600 subscribers showing, which means we should end up with a plus at the end of the year in that line. but with the audit that's being done with Powers and Sullivan of the Health Trust, it's going to be my recommendation, pending the true outcome of that audit, which we should have in the beginning of April, that we transfer what the projected balance of that account is to the Health Trust Fund till we have the full run out. Again, that may not be necessary, which would be a good thing because that would flow to the fund balance, meaning it would go to free cash. However, we're looking more and more like this move to Mayflower, especially this year, is going to pay dividends for the town, save the taxpayers money. So I know that's just a quick rundown. Obviously, we've done well with snow and ice. Please, somebody knock on wood that it continues. The snow and ice budget, you cannot transfer out of that within a fiscal year. However, if you don't expend it, it goes to the fund balance and then flows to free cash. So it's a good problem to have, that not being able to transfer that.
Yeah, but you have to keep the appropriation the next year.
Yes.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
at
you
least
can't
that
deficit
level.
spend. right?
Correct.
Just a quick question, Derek, just to, I was looking at, on education of the school department, they have under expenses, $1.3 million expended. Is that the non-net with the transportation?
Correct. Well, they've got, it isn't their non-net anymore. This is how the town accountant has broken down their expenses and such. So if we're going to get a report from them, we'll ask directly the school department. We've received one before, but when they,
I had asked you.
yeah.
Yeah, because
so-
I'm just looking at it, and for the time frame, if we're working on a fiscal year, they have 18 million unobligated balance on personnel, but yet they virtually spent all their expense budget money already.
Correct. Yeah, the expenses, again, that's not a report we received, that's from the school. That's when the town accountant just looks at some of their budget
I
items,
understand.
the way it's projecting.
So it just kind of kicks out as,
Yeah.
kind of strange.
Well, yeah,
I
'cause-
did ask, I'm sorry, I did ask Mr. Sullivan if he could ask the school department for their books, which we, of course, are entitled to see. I don't want their ledgers, but I want to know, more detail about how they are spending their money. And I don't know what kind of a response you got to that
No,
request.
Mr. McMillan's excellent. We've received one already. They're going through, and
Thank
I
you.
can try and catch it up with, see if November's available.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, and I appreciate that Mr. McMillan is working with you.
Yeah, Mr. McMillan is extremely cooperative always.
Some of this
the way it
she
should
must
be.
be classing out because it's an expenditure, right?
Yeah.
Because she's got like retirement expended at 99.1, and we're not even close to the end of the year yet.
No, retirement
you-
and
the way we
from, you pay that at the beginning of the year. We save roughly, I think it's between $60,000 and $70,000 by prepaying it for the year.
Max it out ahead of time.
You prepay it out. Okay.
Right at the beginning of the year.
And
you
I
pay
know
in
the
a lump
insurances
sum.
are done that way, but, which I see.
All right, retirement, we also receive a favorable pricing on as well.
Okay.
And given what we receive in interest from the banks and such, it's a no-brainer to pay it up front.
Okay, yep.
We received notification that our assessments on the school choice sending have gone up mid-fiscal year with the actual number. That's going to reduce the fund balance and will hurt our free cash. That's roughly $265,000 mid-year. The school also had the school choice receiving was reduced. That's a number that they went from roughly 200 to about 150, 160,000. That's something we don't budget. That's an offset that goes directly to the schools. So that's hurting their bottom line.
I'm sorry, one more time, may I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Back on the school, which I know is not, it is ultimately your responsibility, but it is not your immediate responsibility. Are they working on a level-funded budget as opposed to a level service budget?
Can't
No,
answer that.
I don't believe so.
I believe they made it fairly clear at that meeting we had that it was a level service budget, which is,
Yes, I don't believe that they feel that that a level funded budget that they could operate.
May I ask you, Mr. Sullivan, and this is off the top of your head, over the past 5 years or 10 years, what kind of depletion of personnel has the municipal side of the government of the town of Wareham experienced? Reduce in manpower.
No, we've had drastic cuts. We're down to, I think, close to 100 FTEs altogether, without including obviously the water pollution control or the offset receipt of the EMS. I have to remember, I thought we were below 110, definitely.
And is that somewhere in the vicinity of 25 or 30% number over 10 years?
Oh, yeah, I could project it out. One of the hard things was we didn't have the exact numbers, but it's way down from every department, from, just from the administration department and Board of Selectmen. There's 3 persons that have left from there.
I think one of the most obvious ones would be municipal maintenance, and the second most obvious one would be personnel employed in the police department.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say to the listeners is that when a rising tide lifts all boats and a falling tide takes them all down. And I just think it's incumbent upon the school to recognize the budget constraints that this town has and to live within them. And I made that comment to them personally, so I'm not backstabbing them. I'm simply making it public tonight that I think that a level-funded budget is what is expected, at least from my perspective.
Well, I want to say one more
good,
thing if I
Mr.
can.
Ryan.
We asked the town to step up and give us more money. The school department was a big part of that. They had numbers in there. They wanted a big chunk of money to go on and do the things the way they wanted to do it, and we had a lot of needs that we needed to fill. They needed to fill some needs that they thought they needed. And the town made it quite clear to us, overwhelmingly clear, that that's not what they want. So they're going to have to realize that they didn't ask for a level service budget. They asked for level funding at the most. And a matter of fact, if I read the electorate right, they're saying, you know what? Maybe you even have some more cuts in there someplace. That's what they're saying to us. They being the public, not the school department, obviously. The public is telling us that. And I think that they should have heard the message. I was a little, got a chance to now peruse their budget a little bit. The thing that stands out to me is the town share of 1.48, which frankly scares the heck out of me. I don't know where we're getting 1.48. Do you?
I do not.
I don't know where that's coming. Do you know where that's coming from, Mr. Chair? You got a pocket of money someplace? And obviously, they didn't give us any more money. The town said no. So we've got now 1.488, I call it, close enough, that they're asking us to fund from our existing budget. Now, I want to know where it's coming from. What services do they expect us to cut on our side, or not on our side, because it's all one town, because I really hate that. But the legislature set it up that way, very adversarial. Where do they expect us to cut that from? Where are we going to cut that? I mean, and that's not even counting the deficit we're probably going to have as a result of reduced income anyway.
You're talking about the,
I'm
you're talking about the
overall
school, or you're
budget.
talking about the overall budget?
Yes, the overall budget.
You need to use pronouns.
We need to wait really till next week when Mr. Sullivan presents his request budget, which is like what I call a wish list from the school, and also, which is really what the school has put out right now.
Yeah.
And also what we have for the town. And then we'll have, I believe we'll also see a balanced budget from Mr. Sullivan based on what our revenues are gonna be, and then we'll have to negotiate back and forth there. So what they've asked for is fine. The town also would probably put us out of balance what the town wants. So it's a matter of going back and having to take a scalpel and
You-
go at it. But
you
we don't
can't
have-
go-
Until we have all the numbers, we don't know.
But you can't go to town meeting with an unbalanced budget.
No, we're not. What we're saying is we're gonna have an unbalanced budget presented and a balanced budget presented, basically.
Well, you know, the reason for that is, you know, they asked us the other day in that meeting, and I'm gonna go see and visit, because, you know, they asked us the other day to sort of like, well, comment on this budget, and we handed to us in a couple of seconds. And they made clear about this level funded service thing. And, you know, I'm sorry, but that's not even a good starting place.
No, well,
I call whatever you want pie in the sky, but that's not even a fair thing to bring forward, if you ask me. It's just not.
I believe that we all made the comment, and I know I made it very clear, that there's no way to comment on the budget when you get it 5 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's no way to analyze it.
So
But
now we
I
get a
believe
chance.
I believe what you have is, again, you have a request based on what they want to call a service level. Mr. Sullivan will probably bring forth a budget that he has for what the town needs, and you'll see some adjustments on both sides. But, you know, it's how it's been done over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but I don't need to see pie in the sky. What I need to see is reality. That's what I need to
Well,
see.
you're gonna get that from the people who take care of the day-to-day. It'll come back to us with not pie in the sky, but hard, cold numbers based on revenue. This is the type.
Yeah, I mean, this was the basis of the numbers that I thought I indicated at the meeting, you know, given the short time to peruse the document. 4% fewer students, 3.85%, or it was a 3.58% increase in the budget. If you looked, there was one number there that talked about $10,000 allocation per student going up to $10,800. I mean, there's where you get that from. It's basically an 8% increase per pupil outside of the in-kind. And, you know, I understand that they settled some collective bargaining agreements. That's going to be somewhat of a cost. We've done the same on the town side. I understand that they're looking for a few capital-type items. Really, I would have preferred to have seen those go in through a capital plan if they're talking about a security system or something like that. That's something I think that rather than going piecemeal into a budgeting process and doing a couple of schools a year, so by the time, or facilities a year, so by the time you're done with it, you're off to a different kind of alarm system, and then you got to hire 2 people to come down and fix the stupid stuff instead of 1 person, because you've got the same system everywhere. That's something I think that they should have been looking at. It would make life easier for them and for the budgeting process if they went through the capital line for those things. But, so there's a lot there. As I said at the meeting, we go through this every year. They come in with a number. We know it's not going to be the number that's presented at the town meeting. It's the number that they'll vote next week, or this week, or whenever they're meeting. We'll see what Mr. Sullivan has to say. We sit down and we hash this stuff out. If we go into town meeting with an unbalanced budget, I'll do the same thing I did in 2013, stand up, tell the body we didn't get the work done, give us more time. And that's how it'll play out.
You can't go to a town meeting with an unbalanced budget. Can't do it.
Well, people have tried.
Any other comments from the board? We look forward to next week.
All right, liaison reports. Mr. Titlebaum.
No liaising was done.
No, I did have additional. I
Oh, I'm
apologize.
Yeah,
sorry.
No.
yeah,
I'm
we
sorry.
took him
No.
way off.
I'm not a one-trick pony. I can do more than.
What is that? What do you got? Something going
No,
on
we
over there?
stopped him in education. We didn't let him
Yeah.
keep going.
And probably not something that I tend to do at all, which is address rumors when they come about and such. But there was one that I heard that was, I don't know if it's more outlandish or damaging or such, and that was that we have
Inflated balls?
No, that's not-
It has nothing to do with the New England Patriots.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were going to weigh in on that.
As we know that the new Walmart's coming into town, and I have been informed that myself and the Board of Selectmen have provided a TIF agreement to them, and they will not be paying 1 penny worth of taxes,
Huh?
which is absolutely false, and it's absolutely something we can't do.
No.
the last two TIF agreements from T. Marzetti or Chatham Crouton, and also the Marriott Hotel, all were brought forward, went to town meeting for the residents to vote upon,
Tell me to
and
approve.
then were negotiated. That is the only way that can happen, and that's the only way anything like that can exist. So if you've heard otherwise,
You're being lied to.
it's absolutely false.
Let's just call it what it is.
You're being lied to. So, and again, I don't usually address it, but that one is just, you know, we have something good happening in town, and for somebody trying to take that down, it's just, it's too bad. So, thank you for giving me that time.
Also, to make a point on that, Mr. Sullivan and I believe myself, we had an original agreement through the former town administrator for Walmart to give the town $250,000 toward public safety equipment, et cetera. We went back to Walmart during the negotiations and got that increased to $350,000. Obviously, we didn't give anything away. We increased it by $100,000. So again, anyone putting something out saying the town gave a TIF or gave anything out is really disrespectful to the people that worked hard on this, and it's very discouraging that they have nothing better to do than to put out rumors that have no basis, just to have things for the blog. It's one of the reasons I never look at them. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Titlebaum, liaison reports.
None.
Ms. Whiteside.
Obviously, I worked with the Veterans Council. I continue to work with the Council on Aging. School, I just pounded on. I expounded on, yes. And I know I've done other things this past week. Oh, I don't know what they were. It's age. Goodbye.
All right, I think the footballs were not tampered with, but other than that, I have nothing.
It doesn't matter if they were or not. Everybody had equal chance to play with them. As Mrs. Whiteside said, we've been working, diligently on different alternatives and different options, looking at the Council on Aging, looking at the library, WCTV locations. There are ongoing things happening all the time, and as we get a little more traction, something that's a sustainable project will come forward. But we've not forgotten these two areas in particular, which is the COA and the library. We have not put them out of our heads. We know we have a funding issue, but we're working on private and public options to make these things work long-term. So hopefully by April, we'll have some good answers. That's all I have. Mr. Sullivan, sorry.
Mr. Chair, sorry, that brought something up. A lot of people, when they go into the library, are asking the staff, are the doors closing next week? What's going on? The staff obviously can't tell you anything like that. They've got the funding for the rest of this fiscal year, which is through June 30th. So the doors are not closed, wouldn't be closing this fiscal year. And they can't tell you what's going to happen in the future because the budgets aren't put together, aren't finished, and haven't been voted upon. It's actually town meeting that's going to say what happens. We'll have the final say with what the budgets are. So, the employees there have been working hard, have had their time cut back, which means their salaries cut back. So it's a difficult situation for them. So I just please ask you to remember it's not in their control. They have no extra knowledge than anyone else would. So thank you.
Also, this board really has committed to finding ways to put the Council on Aging and the library in a sustainable program, and this is something we're working on. I don't believe this board has ever said, let's get rid of these two organizations, which people have accused us of. It's just the opposite, as far as I'm concerned. We have a moral and ethical responsibility to our seniors and to the library as a system for the town. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Good night, Wareham.
Thank you.